Hi everyone, welcome back to another edition of videos. I've got a nice little puzzle for you today. This one comes from Sam Loyd, and the stipulation is this: you have all of your pieces all set up like this, and it's your job to place a black king anywhere on this board so that it can be checkmated in only 3 moves. So for example, placing it here, would you be able to checkmate it in 3? So place it anywhere on the board where it can be checkmated in 3. You can't put it where it's already in check. So for example here we've got the knight and the pawn attacking this king. Okay, so see if you can solve it. Whites to move, checkmate in 3. Okay, and here we are with the solution to this puzzle. It is in fact the king being on h4. So I will show you all of the available squares that black will go to, and then show you the different colours of the different mating, how many mates it would be. But generally speaking, the king, what I found was that when the king was near the side of the board, so for example on h4, and actually also a4, but that was actually a checkmate in 5, this is a very quick checkmating solution. Now the reason why that is the case is by putting it onto h4 we've actually limited the amount of squares that it can go to. Number one, we've limited, if you can imagine, 3 squares here on the side of the board. So black already has lost 3 squares of access that it can go to. And not only that, these 2 pawns control these 2 squares. So legally speaking, right now, currently, black has only got these 2 squares that it can go to. And it's just a matter of then restricting the amount of squares that the black king can then move to. So the start of the solution, which is very nice, is the move d4. And the purpose why this move is so good is that it now restricts this g5 square from the king being able to access to. If the king was able to go up to g5, it could then potentially run down the board and get out of this position. So we've kept it to either the side or kind of moving a bit closer to its demise on g4. Now let's have a look at the 2 possible moves that black can play here. If it goes to g4, we can win this quite simply with the move e4 with check, and now notice how this black-white pawn controls here, this bishop controlling these 2 squares, and this queen controlling these 3 squares. So the only available square for this king to go to is to h4, after which we can deliver a very satisfying mate with the pawns. We can play the move g3. Very nice, and a very quick checkmate there. So going back for a second, what else could black do? Well, if it starts running up the board, which I think seems to do pretty well here, as it looks as though there's no way of stopping this king from running up the board, we need to find a way that we can trap this king so it doesn't go any further up the board. Now we do have this bishop that controls these 2 squares, so we need to find a piece that can control this g6 square. And that piece, if you've managed to work it out, is the move queen to d3. This now controls the square, so the king has to come towards our position. Bear in mind, the closer it comes towards a position, the easier it is for us to combine with our pieces to deliver checkmate. So we have only 2 legal squares for this black king to go to. If it comes to g4, we can win this with our queen. Now with our queen out, it can now do a lot of things against the black king. So it can come to h3, and this is a very satisfying Bowden mate here. The queen controlling a lot of the squares around the king and also attacking it, and then this bishop dealing the nail in the coffin on f4 and then g5. Going back a second, if the king comes to this square, this also fails to this solution, queen to h3. Again, the queen controls a lot of squares around the black king, and then finally the bishop being able to control this g5 square for it to go to. Alright, I wanted to finish off this particular video showing you this little colour map to you of all the places that the king could possibly go to, and then what the checkmate solutions would be on there. So the green here represents that a checkmate in 5, so the only square with that was the a4 square. The yellow represents checkmate in 6, the blue represents checkmate in 7, and finally these 2 red squares here This is d5 and d8. This represents checkmate in 8 moves, and it's quite interesting having a look at this. Clearly a4 was a really good candidate to go for. Just like with h4, it limits the amount of squares that the king could possibly go to. Interestingly, a2, a8 and h8, although it only allows 3 squares as well, with the king being so far away from the action, it does still make it difficult for white to be able to deliver a easy checkmate. And I just thought it was interesting. You know, the closer that the king was to the side of the board tended to indicate a quicker checkmate. I was fascinated by why d8 and d5 were checkmate in 8s, particularly d5, and I think it comes down to a couple things. With it being on d5, with it being in the centre of the board, it does allow the king many squares that it can possibly go to, but also our key piece in the solution, as you saw with the checkmate in 3, is this queen here. And with it being on d5, is a little bit tricky. It's a little bit clumsy how the queen gets out. You kind of have to play like a couple moves for it to get into the action with this pawn in the way. So I thought that was quite interesting. So yeah, this is it. This is the whole puzzle. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you see, leave a like at the end of this video. Subscribe to the channel for some more puzzles. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.